Hello, class. We are now moving steadily through the semester, and I wanted to just take a moment to remind you why we're all here and why these assignments matter. This class is not about striving for perfection in every task. No, it's about growth. It's about learning from each draft, each assignment, and becoming better with each step forward. Progress is what we're after. Each assignment you submit is a stepping stone toward improvement. Think of it as practice like training for a marathon or learning to play an instrument. Every time you work on your writing, you sharpening your skills, developing your voice, and learning how to communicate more clearly and effectively. So even when you encounter difficulties, remember that it's all just a part of the process of growth. Now, I've gone through and I've graded all of your about 50% of your assignment for Unit 3. I still have to go back and get the other half, but right now I've gotten all the way through the Transportation Secretary uh, Pete Buttigieg interview with Lawrence Jones in Unit 3. Your grades, along with detailed feedback, are now available in Blackboard. I encourage you to take some time to carefully review your grades and the comments I provided. The feedback is there for a reason. It's meant to guide you, to help you improve. Mistakes are not something to be feared, they're opportunities, opportunities to reflect, to learn, and to grow. The goal isn't whether or not you made mistakes in this assignment. What is important is that you learn from them and you work to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. That's how you improve. No one expects you to get it perfect the first time or even the second time, but the key is to not repeat the same mistakes. If you're unsure about something, if you read the feedback and feel confused, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to help. I want to make sure you understand exactly what I'm asking of you. The feedback I give you is not just criticism, it's coaching. I want each of your drafts to build on the last. You should see each assignment as a chance to improve, to strengthen your writing. With every piece you turn in, I'm looking for progress. Now, no matter how small, these compositions may be short, but they still require thought and care. You're not just writing you're not just writing to check a box, you're learning to craft your language to shape your ideas in ways that are clear, precise, and meaningful. That takes time and effort, and it's not something you can rush through. I've been genuinely impressed with some of your work I've seen so far. Many of you are already showing fantastic progress, and it's exciting to watch your skills develop. For those of you who are struggling a bit, that's okay. Improvement doesn't happen overnight. The most important thing is that I can see you're making an effort and that you're working at it and you're moving in the right direction. Some of you may feel like you're not improving as fast as you'd like, and that's natural. Writing, like any skill, takes practice. Whether you're learning to play an instrument, training for a sport, perfecting your writing, you have to put in the reps. It's not always going to be easy, and sometimes you'll feel frustrated, but remember, progress is progress, no matter how small. With each draft, you get a little bit better, and eventually you'll start to notice the change in your writing. Now, let's talk about turning in assignments on time and ensuring you're putting your best foot forward. I know life gets busy and deadlines can feel like a lot of pressure, but these assignments aren't something you can rush through at the last minute. At the last minute. Even though you may be short, even though they may be short, they still require time and thought. You're not just writing to finish quickly, you're developing skills that will serve you throughout your academic and professional life. So take that time to think about your work, plan it out, revise it, and most importantly, don't settle for the quickest version of your work. These assignments are about crafting your writing, about learning to be thoughtful with your words and your ideas. You're learning how to communicate effectively, not just getting words down on a page. Writing is a skill that requires patience, focus, and effort. Even if the assignment is brief, that doesn't mean it should take only a short amount of time to complete. Put some care into these short pieces as you would a larger project. Last week, we had a fantastic discussion about you're gaining from these assignments and the challenges you're facing. I really appreciated hearing from your thoughts and reflections on the process. It gave me valuable insight into what's working for you and where some of the sticking points are. It was clear from our conversation that many of you are fully engaged in this process, and that's exactly what I want to see. That's why I created the discussion threads. However, as we discussed, improvement doesn't happen instantly. It takes time. Think of it like learning to play basketball. You can't just watch a game and suddenly be good at it. You have to put in the practice over and over again. You have to put in the hours, develop the muscle memory, and hone your skills through repetition. Writing is no different. Every time you sit down to write, you're training those muscles. You're learning how to organize your thoughts, how to express yourself clearly, how to structure an argument, and how to communicate to your audience. It takes time and it takes effort, but with each assignment, you'll get a little better. Keep practicing, keep pushing forward, and trust that the progress will come. Some of you mentioned that one of the challenges you're facing is summarizing interviews or writing about topics that are unfamiliar to you. That's a common struggle, and it's something we all deal with from time to time. When you're working with material you're not familiar with, the first thing you need to do is take some time to research. If you're writing about a topic like Pete Buttigieg's interview and you're not well versed in politics, it's essential to get up to speed before you begin. Do some background research, read articles, watch videos, Google the basics. You don't have to become an expert, but you do need to understand the context. That way, when you're summarizing the interview, you'll have a better sense of what's important and what's worth highlighting. The more informed you are, the easier it is to write a clear, concise, and accurate summary. This applies to any topic you're unfamiliar with, whether it's an artist like Billie Eilish or a political figure like, Lawrence Jones. It's your job to get familiar with the subject. If you don't understand the material, it's almost impossible to write a good summary. Another challenge that came up in our discussion was the difficulty of determining what's the most important in a story. This is where chapter 4 comes in. We talked about the core news value, things like impact, proximity, timelessness, timeliness, conflict, prominence, and oddity. These are all tools these are all tools you should be using to figure out what makes a story newsworthy. When you're writing, always start by thinking about your audience. What will have the most impact on them. For example, if you're deciding between writing a story about a new chess club on campus or covering the campus flu vaccine rollout, which one do you think will matter more to your readers? The vaccine rollout affects more people, it's more urgent, and has a direct impact on your audience's health. That's why it takes priority. The chess club, though it might be interesting, but when you're comparing the two stories, the vaccine rollout is clearly more impactful. Proximity is another important factor. Stories that happen close to the audience are naturally more relevant than stories that happen from far away. If something is happening here in Oxford, it's going to matter more to your reader than something happening across the country in Colorado Springs. Similarly, conflict often makes for compelling stories, whether it's political tension, social issues, or even personal disagreements. Conflict draws attention and engages readers because it highlights tension and differing perspectives. Then there's prominence. If someone well known, like Chancellor Boyce, makes news, that story will likely attract more attention than if it involves someone less prominent. People are naturally drawn to stories involving public figures, but those individuals often have a broader influence or represent something larger. Finally, oddity or novelty is another key element of newsworthiness. If something unusual happens, something that doesn't occur every day, that's news. People are drawn to the unexpected. People are drawn to the unexpected, to stories that stand out and break the norm. So as you work on your assignments, keep the news values in mind. They should guide your decisions about what to focus on. Ask yourself, what's impactful? What's timely? What's relevant to my audience? These are these are the questions that will help you figure out what's most important in your story. Now let's cover a few grammatical points that have come up over the last several assignments. One thing I've noticed is the use of the singular or plural forms. For example, it's correct to say a journalist should always be prepared, or journalists should always be prepared. But you can't mix singular and plural with the same sentence. These small mistakes can undermine the credibility of your writing. It may seem like a minor issue, but for a reader, those little details matter. They affect how people perceive the quality and professionalism of your work. Another point to keep in mind is that you should always be following the assignment instructions. For example, stick to the word count. I've also noticed that some of you are still using direct quotes in your summaries, even though we haven't covered how to properly incorporate that yet. Right now, the focus is on summarizing. That means taking the information and presenting it in your own words. Well, we'll get to the quotes soon, but for now, just concentrate on organizing the facts clearly and concisely. Capitalization is another area where I've seen some issues. Remember to capitalize proper nouns, names of people, specific titles, places, but keep other words lowercase. Overcapitalizing can make you feel clunky and less polished. If you're unsure whether to capitalize something, it's better to err on the side of lowercase. Another thing to keep in mind when summarizing an interview is to avoid narrating the conversation. Your job is to summarize the content, not the back and forth of the interview itself. The interviewer's role is to simply guide the conversation, but they don't need to be a central part of your story. Focus on what was said by the subject of the interview. What information was shared? Where were the key points? Keep your writing centered on the content, not on the mechanics of the interview. For this week, you have 4 assignments, 2 due on Friday and 2 due next Friday. The unit focuses on story structure and learning how to write like a journalist. Your first assignment is a discussion post answering the question, what is news? I want you to look around your everyday life and think about what qualifies as news. Use the news value we discussed, impact, proximity, conflict, timeliness, and so on to guide your response. Think critically about what makes something newsworthy and how those elements apply to your stories, apply to stories you encounter in your everyday today life. Your second assignment is a chapter summary of chapter 5. However, I want you to stop at page 156 just before the section on quotes. We'll cover that material on quotes in the next unit. So for now, focus on summarizing the first part of the chapter, which deals with the basics of news writing. Next week, you'll have 2 more assignments. One is a second draft of Kevin Hart interview, I think. Take the feedback I will provide to you very shortly for the first draft and make improvements. Whether you decide to start from scratch or revise your original draft is up to you, but the key is to apply what you've learned and push your writing to the next level. The second assignment is a TED Talk summary. I posted the video on Blackboard for the assignment. I want you to write as if the TED Talk had been delivered here on campus. Imagine you're covering it for the campus newspaper. Summarize the key points of the talk and make sure to emphasize the proximity and the relevance of your audience here at the university. If you're struggling with any of this, remember that I'm here to help as much as I possibly can. We're approaching we've approached the midpoint of the semester, and midterm grades will be due soon. I know you don't have a midterm in this particular class, but I do have to submit where you stand in the grades up to this point. But don't worry, there's still plenty of time to improve. The important thing is to start making those adjustments now, and we'll move forward. The stakes will get higher, and the assignments will carry more weight as we progress. You want to make sure you're developing the skills and habits that will allow you to perform at a higher level when those bigger assignments come around. Stay safe, stay focused, and keep pushing forward. You got this. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Peace.